mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo. What's the deal? Welcome to another dope episode of Chill World Radio, man. This is number 60. I am 60 episodes in, man. 60 of them in, man. It feels good to be here at number 60, man. It takes a lot, dog. It takes a lot to really do this 60 episodes straight, man. I remember I was talking about this earlier in the show. I talk about this a lot, whether it's my boys or whatever, that... talking to my boys or whatever, that it's kind of hard. What's up, Dieter? We good? Everything straight? All right. Checking in, make sure all these levels is good and everything is straight, but I always have these conversations when it comes to this. And I tell people like, 60 episodes in, I do this every week, every Sunday, and I speak about the discipline that comes to it. That goes a lot into it, and it's tough because I do this a lot. I do this on my own, and I find the guests on my own. I plan the show on my own. I'm here on my own. I'm in the studio with my man Diddy and my girl who comes through, but the majority of it is on my own. And it's a lot. But the one thing that's important for a lot of us to understand is obviously when it comes to discipline, and I'm going to speak about this a lot, start small, bro. It doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be major. Like a big chunk of the second half of this year, obviously, for me, was about discipline. Right? I worked out consistently for 90 days straight. I accomplished that. I started fasting, and I fasted for 5 days straight. I'm going to do another fast at the top of the year. I started to be more disciplined in my plannings throughout the day. Right? I'm starting to write things down. I never used to write things down. I used to just always keep it in my head, and things would start to get so chaotic that I would start to forget things. So I'm starting to get more disciplined in those regards. So just for those individuals who are struggling with their discipline, who are trying to find other ways to really improve in their discipline, start small. A while ago, I spoke about how it was important to just make up your bed every day, right? Every day. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be hotel perfect with the sheets tucked and everything. Nah, just wipe it, whatever the flick that's covered up, putting on your couch, your bed, and move on about your day, man, because it's something, one, that you're able to get something done in the morning, and then also, two, when you come back home, the fact that your bed isn't messy, it allows you to be a little bit more at ease when you're coming home, right? Because you don't like coming home and coming into your room, you got all of this stuff on your bed, you got all of this stuff on the floor, you had a messy day, and now you got to come home to a messy room. You're not getting outside of the mess that life has created, right? So when it comes to discipline, start small, right? Start small and grow from there. Right? Don't have to do that. You don't have to be at the gym every single day. Go twice a week. Go 3 times a week. Whatever. There was a quote that somebody said to me that I read a few weeks ago. If you throw a bucket of water on a piece of rock, it's not going to do nothing to the rock. But if there's a consistent drip by drip for X amount of time, slowly there's going to become dense in the rock. Right? So start small and just go from there. Consistency is what's most important. All right? So moving on forward into the self-care piece, right? The one self-care piece that I think is important for a lot of us to implement within our self-care regimen, especially when we're trying to use self-care as a way to calm down anxiety, as a way for us to get back into some form of peace in order to get back to present, things of those sorts. One of the things that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, if they have the ability to. I don't have the ability to do this because I didn't do this growing up, but if you were one of those individuals that used to write in your journal or diary, if you used to keep a diary in high school, or if you used to keep a diary in middle school as a teen or whatever it is, go back and read through that diary every now and then, right? Read a page, read here, what happened when I was in high school, what happened this day, or whatever. The reason why that's so important, the reason why that can help out is because, one, it's going to take you away from the frantic life that a lot of us have, right? A lot of us have very, very busy lives. A lot of us live a very, very anxious life, right? So if we could go back and read, the things that we wrote down 10, 15 years ago, it's like going back and looking at an old family picture. You begin the memories of that particular day or of that family or whatever it is begin to, come back up, right? Or you could read a page if you're going through a tough time, right? Or if you're going through a tough time and you need something to really lift you up, you could read a page in your diary that could lift you up, or you could read a page in your diary in which, you was able to get through, whether it's a heartbreak or a bad grade or whatever the case is, right? Go back and read a page or two within your diary just so you can be able to escape the frantic life that we all in. It can give you that place so you can be able to be present, but also most important, it just take you away, because we all need that break from our lives, because we all live busy lives and we always have to be able to find a way to get away from it, right? So the self-care piece, if you're able to do this, because I can't do this, I didn't journal, but I think that it's very important for a lot of us, especially if you have those journals, to go back and read it, right? I like reading my girlfriend's old journals because it opens the door to a person who I didn't know she was, So if you have a journal and if you have the ability to go back into reading your journal, my self-care piece that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, go back, read a page or two within your journal, all right? So moving on forward into my main topic of the day, I got my man, Stevan. What's going on, brother?
Oh, not much, man. Doing all right. How's it going, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you for coming through.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me on.
How you feeling, man? I
feel great, man. Life is good. Ending the year 2019, heading into 2020, trying to level up.
What's great about your life?
Man, I'm well adjusted, man. I mean, the ups and downs of life happen to everybody, but for me, I still feel like it's been more good than bad, and that's what's phenomenal for me.
How was 2019 for you?
2019 was an epic year. A lot of ups, a lot of firsts. I moved out of working at Woodbury University.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and I'm in full-time private practice. Yeah, so that was a big shift. I'm working for myself and no longer the man, right?
How is that for you?
That is fantastic, man. I've not lost a step, man. It was a seamless transition.
Is it scary?
Before, it was. So, like, prior to the jump, it was scary. I know we were talking about you jumping out of planes, and I was getting on your head about it. But to have that as an analogy,
I'm gonna get you to jump one day.
Not at all. Before the jump, though, it was really scary. Inner bully telling me all this stuff. Do I have it? Do I know what I'm doing? But like once you're out there, it's like, hey, this is working the way it was supposed to. I was ready for it.
You see that? I gotta do it or I'm not, right?
Yep. Sink or swim.
It's the same with skydiving.
Hey, and I'm a swim.
I'm gonna live or I'm gonna hit this ground.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily, but well, okay. Yeah. If private practice didn't work, I would have just went and got another job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're a black man in therapy. It's not hard at all.
Right.
And you got a license.
Right. 100%.
Easy. They looking for you.
100%.
They looking for you.
100%.
And the skydiving thing. The practice is going by well.
Yeah, man. Continuing to. At the beginning of 2019, I changed my focus and got more deliberate in the clientele that I wanted to see, and changed up my website, rebranded.
Yeah.
And that really led to me being able to jump into private practice full time in August, and I've not kind of missed a step. And people that are whatever I'm putting out there is resonating with people, and they just keep connecting with me.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah. I'm gonna be there very, very soon.
I'm hoping for it, man. I'm waiting for it.
I'm gonna be on your heels, man.
Absolutely.
I'm waiting on BBS to come back with my hours.
Yeah.
Give me the permission to pass this test real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Be on your heels, man. But that's dope.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for actually taking that step.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I think we met when had that event in Long Beach, but I think at that point is when you were just about to quit.
Yep.
At that point, you was just about to quit, and when you did make that step, I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, the support's been phenomenal, man. I mean, everybody's been super excited for me, and it's just been a blessing.
It's a scary thing, man, because now you don't have that consistent income coming in.
Yeah. It's like, well, actually, it has been consistent. Like my clients, the number of sessions I have per week are about the same, so it's been pretty steady. But it's that thought.
It's the
it's
fear
what we tell
of
ourselves. 100%.
Will my income be consistent?
Yeah. If we look at it, when we work for an organization or an institution, We're in California. It's at will. They could fire us tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So how consistent is it really? We tell ourselves if we do a good job, then they'll keep us on. So the same thing holds true for being in business for yourself.
Especially with me and all these jobs that I have, everywhere that I work at, I'm per diem.
Yep.
So if they wake up on the wrong side of the bed and be like, I don't like you, Willis, it's time to go.
Yeah, see? So you're already kind of, you've overcome the biggest hurdle. The fact of telling yourself that you can do it.
And a lot of it is kind of like what you said, conquering that inner bully.
Mm-hmm.
That one thing is telling you, like, are you good enough? Can you do it? You can, and things like that. And I think that's a nice little segue into what we're going to speak about today, right? One of the biggest things that I fight with a lot, and is not believing that I'm good enough from where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what we're going to speak about today is just imposter syndrome, right? And in all actuality, it took a minute to actually accept that actual term. To me, it seemed like some type of pseudoscience that, you know, some bored psychologist thought about. But especially with me being here on this mic,
Mm-hmm.
as I began to sit back, I was like, whoa, that's something that I personally deal with a lot, right? And I was talking to you about this earlier outside before the
Mm-hmm.
show. Is when I started the show, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Who am I to be on this mic? I'm not a journalist. I've never done this or whatever. And I speak about this a lot on this mic and say that, you know, I still have trouble being confident in the fact that I'm here, that I'm doing this, even though I'm 60 episodes in,
right.
And I've never had any negative feedback towards this. There's still, like you said, that inner bully that goes on. And a lot of people have a lot of different ways to come over it or to get over it. One of the things that I've worked for me, you can tell me what has worked for you and your experience with it, but one of the things that has worked for me is just to get out there and do it and deal with whatever consequence it is. Like, I have more faith in myself dealing with the consequence versus actually being within the moment. If that makes sense.
For sure.
Right? So, going back to skydive, I could deal with the fact that if I'm dead, like, it just happens.
Yeah.
But I won't be able to deal with the fact that I went up there and I was like, you know what? Nah, I changed my mind. That's going to eat at me.
Got you.
I would rather, you know, if people said this was bad, it's like, okay, cool. It's just bad. It is what it is. But if I would have never went up there and actually tried, I would have been eating myself alive.
So the regret is worse than the failure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's tough.
I don't want to be, and I work in a lot of hospitals, and we work around people all the time, and I'm sure you can relate to this. But a lot of our clients, especially the older ones, speak about regret a lot.
Yep.
I wish I would have done this at a younger age. I wish I would have saved. I wish I would have started. Whatever the case may be, right? I wish I would have spoke to that person. Whatever it is, they have taught me the importance of just doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't die, you're fine.
Right.
Take skydiving out the question, but if you don't die,
as long as you live, you do all right.
As long as you live, you are all good.
Yep.
Money is always going to come back. The experience is always going to come back. You can be able to create better memories, and you don't know if, you know, you failing at that situation or you not getting that girl. You don't know if that kind of saves you.
Right.
That girl saying no at the bar probably could really save you from a crazy situation.
Headache and drama.
18
who knows?
years of child support.
Could be.
Hey,
it's happened before.
It could be saving you, man. So for me, the regret is way, way more heavy than the actual consequence of failure.
Yeah, of that part of missing out or telling yourself that, well, I can create this narrative that things would have been better, or, you know, had I done this, it would have been different. And that's hard to kind of wrestle with within ourselves, of not knowing whether we're right or wrong. Right, but we live with that fact that we tell ourselves we're right, that it would have been better, it would have been okay, and I didn't do it, and I should have. And there's that demand we put on ourselves. Yeah, I should have. I needed to.
Why do we always put that on ourselves, though?
It's a tough thing. I think that, you know, we kind of are our own worst critics. I mean, that's like not new to anybody. But we put that demand on ourselves because it's just the way our language is. I mean, when I was younger in my career, even before I got to undergrad, I got exposed to Deborah Tannen, and, you know, she talks about men and women in communication, and a lot of that stuff, you know, it made me she's a linguist, so it made me think about language. And so the way we talk to ourselves, it has a real impact, right? And so when we place these demands on ourselves, we tell ourselves should, need, have to, must. It doesn't really leave a lot of room for us not to get the thing that we said we should, need, have to, must have, right?
Exactly.
And so if we don't get that as a result, then we're kind of distressed by it.
Yeah.
Right? We feel like, well, we're incomplete. We didn't accomplish what we said we were supposed to. And so what we do is we focus on what didn't happen, and we don't acknowledge all the great stuff that did.
Yeah.
So like when you talk about 2019, how was it for you? I'm trying to do the other side of that of saying like, well, man, a ton of good stuff happened. A ton of good shit happened, right? Did some bad stuff happen or some things not good? For sure. But that's okay. I mean, the good outweighed the bad by miles,
Yeah, for real.
100%. So, yeah, I mean, I think we get into that space where we're telling ourselves these demands, and when we tell ourselves those demands, life is terrible or horrible if we don't get what we said we're supposed to have.
Man, my mom, the one thing I can appreciate my mom taught me, and I guess this is why for me it's either yes or no, go do it or don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
My mom used to ask me or tell me like, yo, do you want to do something? And if I say I don't know, she take that as a no. If I say maybe, she take that as a no. If I have any sort of conflict about what I want to do, she just take it as a no. And what she beat that in my head so much to where it's like it's either a yes or a no. Mm-hmm. Because to me, a maybe to me is kind of worse than a no.
Right.
Because what it is, it's slowing you down towards actually doing something that you should or shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. Have confidence in that no, right? In something that you can't do. Because it's okay if you can't do something, right?
Right.
It's okay if you had negative things pop off in 2019. Like, it happens in life, but also it's important, okay, those things that you said yes to, those things that you actually tried to accomplish and get over, you learned along the way, so even with some of the unexpected things that we spoke about before, even if some of those unexpected things from the gate look bad on the other end, once you get across that road, you be like, oh, it ain't really that crazy.
Real talk. Hindsight, man. Yeah. I mean, when you look back on it, was it as bad as you predicted? Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be? Usually the stuff is not our worst case scenario, but that's the anxiety of it, right? We live in that fear. We tell ourselves that things are going to be terrible, horrible, and we focus on what are the worst possible cases or outcomes of a given situation or a choice. And we spend all our time focusing on that and no time focusing on the myriad other things that can happen in between that stuff, right? Like even the best outcome and the worst outcome, and then there's all this stuff in between that can happen, and we just ignore all that stuff and we focus on, well, if this doesn't go right, then it's going to be terrible. We're going to be a failure. People are going to look at this, and you're predicting all this stuff that you have no way or capability or knowledge about. It's like when I'm working with clients, I get on them and I kind of tell them like, well, since you can predict the future so well, then why don't you shoot me those lottery numbers so we can all be done with this, right? Yeah. Exactly.
For real.
Yeah, man. It's crazy stuff, man.
I think. I don't know. Let me ask you this before I answer because I was going to come up with something. Where do you think imposter syndrome starts from for a person?
Oh man, so we about to do the deep dive, right?
So
nah, for real. So for me, what I found in kind of working with people and like kind of reading Dr. Pauline Clance, she's the person who kind of coined the term back in the 70s.
It's been out that long?
Yeah. She started off working with women in grad school and, kind of studying them and realizing that after they kind of achieved some success in graduate school, that fear of being a fraud or not belonging never left them. And so that kind of made her curious for her, right?
Yeah.
So when I started working with clients, it's that marketing tool of where, the marketing technique of like, hey, how do I find my niche? How do I find my ideal client? And so in doing that, I started thinking about the clients that I had that I really, really enjoyed. And they all kind of had these similarities, right? And so when you start to look at it, the things that happened that they had similar were either that they, as a child, they had a parent that was super critical of them, like kind of always focusing on where they fell short or what they didn't do. So it's like, you got a B, why didn't you get an A? Or sit up straight, or, don't dress like that, or you're going to wear this, right? So all those little things, just nitpicking. And they weren't, the parents, I don't think were, evil or terrible, horrible people, but what they were doing was trying to make their kids better. But in doing so, they only focused on the bad, where they could improve. They never celebrated the success, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the other thing that you find is that there are individuals who might be the first in their family to accomplish something, right? So, maybe the first person to go to college and get a degree or be really successful in a career, and the rest of their family doesn't look like that, right? So that's part of the problem. And so they kind of internalize, well, my family doesn't look like that, then I don't know if I really kind of, have what it takes because, my dad is in jail, my mom, only went to high school, all these things we tell ourselves, right? The third thing that I've noticed is that it's for people who are kind of in spaces where they're the only person that looks like them. So think like
just
black
thinking
male
about that.
therapists, women in tech, men in nursing, people of color in majority white spaces. So you start to look at that sort of thing and then find out that, well, people don't see anybody when they look around that looks like them. Maybe I'm kind of not in the right space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away even though they've achieved success. They still feel as though at some point they're going to be found out as not really having the skills or abilities that they do possess.
Exactly. It's kind of like they're looking for that reason to prove to themselves that they're not good enough.
Right. 100%.
I think it's for, and I love speaking about myself a lot while I'm here because I'm very I personalize and I use that when it comes to other things.
For sure.
Especially when it comes to this, it's especially when it comes to this and other people. I think it's important that we all understand that, like, it's okay if you believe that you're not good enough in certain areas, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's about I don't look the part when I'm in this field, right? And I think for me, it really started off when I was in college. For me, I didn't have the aspect of like my parents trying to push me up.
Okay.
For me, it was in college because it was just like I'm around all these individuals who are getting all of these good grades and they got the money to pay for this and their parents got this and I'm here selling drugs just to make the school payment, and that's all I'm trying to do. And then I get to college. I get to grad school. I'm the only black person in my graduate class.
Yep.
You know, so it's like, and then you already, especially when you're going forth and you start to work with white people, you already have that stigma in your head that, okay, compared to white folks, you damn sure ain't good enough.
Right.
You're the dumbest one in the classroom. So
I'm behind.
Exactly.
I'm behind. At the start of the race, I'm already asked.
I'm already chained up to the fence and
Right.
they 100 yards ahead.
Yep.
You know, so even when I got in grad school, I was just like, okay, I have to work that much harder. I think for us as black folks, that could be good and bad if you know how to use it.
For sure.
If you know how to use it. For me, it's about understanding, okay, that motivation to work that much harder is going to propel you to be better than the people that's already in your circle or better than your peers. But on the other end, if you're not able to look at this as a beneficial moment, it's going to weigh you down and we're never going to get through it.
Right.
And a lot of my personal friends that I know, they're stuck in that space to where they don't believe in themselves so much they just going to start to blame everybody else.
For sure.
And especially make me look bad because make me feel as if I should be wrong for my certain accomplishments because they're not where they're at in their life.
Right. And then the other part, like in that, and what you're saying is that individuals don't often kind of identify with their success, right? Like they never kind of
don't give themselves credit.
Right. That this is me. This is something that I did. You know, they want to explain it away as, it was lucky, or that person liked me, or I knew this person. And, you know, I'm constantly relentlessly challenging that stuff with my clients, is that you mean to tell me that you have no skills and no abilities, and the people around you who put you in this position, they aren't able to see it, is what you're telling me, right? And so it's like, okay, well, you got past that hurdle. Well, then at least give yourself credit for being good enough to continue to fake it, right? Like at least you're really good at that. And like it's hard for them to own that part. And so it's, you know, what you're saying is that, you know, we kind of get to this place of where when we're successful, it doesn't serve to decrease our belief or our fraud or our feelings of fraud, right? That it only says that, well, I've got to continue to work harder to kind of stay at this place, to continue to fool people. And so it becomes anxiety producing. And so we don't want to have more success. It becomes a fear of success, because the higher I go up, the harder it's going to be to maintain this, as opposed to saying like, well, you've learned something along the way, you've elevated to this status, now it's time to level up and go to the next step because you have the skills and abilities.
How do you get over that though?
Over the imposter syndrome, over that imposterism. So I do a couple of different things with clients. I mean, I do a lot of stuff, but I do a bunch of stuff. But the things that I do kind of consistently are getting people to, one, kind of acknowledge that they've done what they've done, right? So I have people do what I call an evidence sheet. So really just kind of writing down and listing the things and accomplishments that they've done. Right, so it's like
I do that same shit.
Yeah,
I don't call it evidence sheet, but I do that same thing. Like, yo,
what do you call it? It's whatever. You know, you don't have to call it an evidence sheet.
You finna list out, because for me, it's if they're able to see what they've done versus it just being in their head,
Right,
it makes
right,
it so
right,
much easier.
right.
Like, damn. And then I tell them, okay, write down the things that you didn't do or the
Right.
things you couldn't do.
Yep.
They be stuck at like 2 or 3. And now they
Right,
start to look at that
right.
list. They're like, oh, snap.
Yeah, it's hard to refute when you see it in writing. And it's like, we're just saying not make up stuff. Did you or did you not do this? And
Yeah.
it's just concrete. You know, I like science. Where's the evidence? You know, so I'm always talking about the evidence. And so this sheet is a living document and we just keep adding to it. And so it's like, well, you did that. That happened. All right. And you can't run from that. And so after a while, you start to, like you said, you pile up and it's really imbalanced. It's, I've got more of these things I've done. And this stuff that I think I wasn't successful at is really not that long of a list. Right. So that's like one thing I do. The other thing I do is I get people to kind of recognize how other people see them. Right. So like it's almost a similar, or I guess kind of akin to with like body dysmorphia, like where people with body dysmorphia oftentimes see themselves in a way that the world doesn't see them. So like I'm, you know, morbidly obese and it's like, nah, you've got, you know, no love handles, like relax, you know, but I see myself as not being the way that the world sees me. So I have people, what I do, I just made this kind of intervention up and I call it kind of collecting data, right? So I have people go out and ask friends kind of what their 5 biggest strengths are, right? And so what you do is you ask 3 or 4 or 5 people, some friends, some family, you know, mix it up, a coworker, somebody who knows you a long time, a little bit of time, to just kind of see what you're putting out in the world and what people are noticing. And when you get that list, I kind of take it and I, you know, synthesize the information and you put them into categories. And what you'll find is that there's a theme that arises. And like, this is who you are. And so, you know, when I have that, again, that's more evidence, right? And so I create a table, give it back to them and say, well, this stuff on this list, you know, are these people liars that you asked? Like, are they just kind of, you know, making this stuff up? And they're like, absolutely not. No, they aren't liars. So then this is just who you are. So then let's take some time for you to sit with this stuff. Look at the things that people listed about you as being your strengths and what you're putting out into the world and own it.
Yeah.
You know, don't run from that. Yeah.
What I'm hearing a lot is low self-esteem. Do you believe there's a correlation or relationship between imposter syndrome and low self-esteem?
For sure. And I think, you know, we delve into it. I think it kind of goes back to stuff that happened either like at a pivotal point in a person's life or kind of stuff back to childhood where they never really established a good, strong foundation of self-worth, right? And so they're kind of constantly always in question or questioning themselves because they don't know where they really stand and they're looking for confirmation. And then if they get something that's opposite that, then they go to the far extreme and say, well, I'm terrible and horrible and no good at anything. It's like, well, no, you're human. You make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can still be really good and belong somewhere and not be perfect. I mean, unless you're telling me that, you know, if you think Steph Curry or Westbrook is a great player, that they always have a perfect and great, phenomenal game. Nah, not real. You know, I mean, sometimes Curry miss more than he make, and you know what? I still want him to shoot. Westbrook doesn't get a triple-double every game. Sometimes he, you know, averages a triple-double, but that doesn't mean he got one every game.
Yeah.
Does that mean that he's not that good? Nah, not at all. So what are we really talking about? You know,
It goes back and forth, and I think a lot of the times especially when it comes to low self-esteem and lack of confidence, it's such a broad term, right? Especially when I'm working with a lot of my clients who deal with the lack of confidence and low self-esteem. It's such a broad term, and they don't know exactly how to kind of break it down. Right. I love breaking things down to like the smallest and most simplest form with like a lot of my clients because what I always tell them is you're not in therapy because this one thing happened. You're in therapy because that one thing caused all of the other thousands of stuff to boil over. And now you just hear it because everything done blown up. Right. You know, so I love the fact that, you know, us looking at the relationship between low self-esteem and you know, imposter syndrome and how we can understand, okay, maybe I just need to look at it like this. Forget the low self-esteem part. Right. Because that's going to come. That's going to be there. We're always going to have times in which we don't feel bad. Right? For sure. There's going to be those games, like you said. Steph Curry, he's not going to be confident in hitting a shot. Yep. But the only way you're going to gain some type of confidence is by shooting. Shoot the ball.
Knowing that you can make it. You made them before. Why would you not be able to make them again?
You got to create the rhythm.
Yep.
Right? Create the rhythm. And the one thing I always press on my clients is give yourself the credit that you deserve. We always, and even as a black folks, myself, I don't know if you do this, but whenever certain compliments come, I'll be like, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Yo, the minimizing of our accomplishments or success is a it might be cultural, but I don't know if it's specific just to black folk, right? Like, because I'll have clients that accomplish amazing things and don't really celebrate their successes. So, you know, some of the other stuff I teach is like, at least just celebrate you. Like, you did this, tell yourself you did a good job. You know, reward yourself. Go take yourself out to a nice dinner or whatever you want to do, however you want to treat yourself, massage or what have you, that you accomplished this thing. That doesn't mean that being humble is not saying that I'm not going to talk about my successes, right? Like, I'm not going to talk about my successes to make you feel worse, right? To put you down or make myself appear better. That's humble, right? But to ignore or dismiss that you did something, I'm just saying you can't acknowledge that you got a promotion. Why can't we talk about it? Like, oh yeah, but I gotta, I don't want to get complacent. It's like, we're not getting complacent. I don't think you're the type of person that's not going to continue to go after, higher goals and higher heights. That's who you are. Look at what you've already accomplished. Also, let's stop here for a second and say, hey, you got this promotion. This is dope. Let's enjoy this and what that means for you. Yeah.
Do you think that trait or that quality is when it comes to black folks, it's inherent? It's something that's just always there because of our history?
I can see that. Why it would be a little bit, because we aren't allowed or afforded the opportunity to kind of bask in things of greatness, because we tell ourselves it can be fleeting, right? And some of that's not just the telling. Some of that has happened is that, you aren't perfect, you're gone. Like you said about being per diem, is that if Willis is in good today, hey, fuck Willis, he's out of here, right? Yeah. And so I think, as a people, that some of our experiences have been that, last hired, first fired. That was a theme. That's not something that came out of nowhere. That was out of our history, out of experiences. And so I think some of that has been passed down. I think what's changing now is that millennials aren't accepting that. So millennials of color are not accepting that I'm the last hired, and so that means that now I'm less than or lowest man on the totem pole, or that I don't have value or self-worth. They are demanding stuff. They are 6 months into the job.
And that's why they look at us as entitled.
I want a raise. I've been here. I've done this stuff. Reward me for my accomplishments. They are not lacking in their own, self-worth, their understanding. For sure.
And that's why they look at us entitled, because we come up in the acts. We say like, yo, I did this work, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of the times, especially what, this millennial generation is doing is especially us as black folks, we are understanding that we are on equal playing fields to the white folks, to our counterparts, right? A lot of, the older generations, it was white and then black. Well, white, other stuff. And then, you come. We're raised in, an impoverished community, and we have to start from the bottom. Now we have to pull ourselves up, and every time we come up in every single room, we always see people get things that are handed to them, or we have to work 10 times as harder. Now you start to believe, like, well, what's the point? But this generation, millennial generation, it's like, nah, we don't. And I believe a lot of that is by the help of social media, so to say, because it's allowing us to, be more open to other types of people, other types of black folks and things like that. Because before that, you think you the only person in the hood, and the only person that got money is the one across the tracks. The white folks, up the street or whatever, they got the bread. So that's the only thing you have to compare it to. But now you start to see, like, damn, I'm not the only person out here that's
in a professional arena or doing something, of greatness or success that's not related to entertainment or sports, something like that. And it's good to see, and that's like kind of the benefit of social media. And then there's the other side of that, where people will use that then to say, well, I'm not there. And then they start to beat themselves up or make themselves feel as though I'm behind.
You start to compare yourself. But just seeing that, getting those experiences and seeing what's actually out there instead of putting yourself in this box. Because along with the other things that we listed off, such as the list and writing the strengths down that other people would give you, but also looking at and gaining certain experiences to see who's in your same boat, you start to see that it's a lot of people out here that are just like you. Because I would believe that a lot of folks who have imposter syndrome, they think they are the only ones
100%
dealing with this.
That's it.
Once you begin to see, like, yo, he think he bad, I think I'm fucked up too. We in this box together.
I mean, that's what it is. I remember I watched a TED Talk on imposter syndrome, and the guy was talking about, he kind of self-disclosed. He was like a C-suite and, created a company, sold it for a ton of money, whatever. And he was kind of talking about, like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And then that gave license to other people who are at his level to acknowledge and admit to the fact that, yeah, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing either. And some of that might be true. Like, I mean, after you ascend to a new level, yeah, there's going to be a learning curve, right? So you might not know exactly what you're doing for a period of time, but also that doesn't mean that you should remain in a space of where you're saying, well, I don't deserve to be here, or I feel like I'm fraudulently here, like I don't belong, right? And so I think that's the thing that happens is that, you know, for him and for a lot of successful people is that they live in this island or in this bubble and they believe like, well, I've got all this success and I don't think that I deserve it and I feel terrible about it. But I can't talk about it because people will look at my life and say, look how great your life is. Look how accomplished you are. You're so successful. And you hear all that and you're like, well, I can't tell them I don't feel that way or that I also don't think that I deserve this stuff, you know, because they're going to get upset and they're going to be angry because people will be happy to have what I have, right? But it's like they would, the accomplishments, they wouldn't be happy to have the depression or the anxiety you have as a result of that stuff.
Exactly. And it's a long road to actually get to it. But the thing is, and I guess going back into my personal experience for me, and it goes back into what I was speaking about earlier in terms of just going out here and doing this stuff,
right?
And just a lot, just learning how to fail. I think a lot of the times when it comes to imposter syndrome, we have to get comfortable with understanding, like, yo, we might just fail in certain regards,
for sure,
right? We might just be real bad in this particular situation. Have you ever came across certain clients to where you had to let them know that it's okay for you to just fail, and how were you able to get through that with them?
Absolutely. I spend a ton of time, and if you work with really successful people or really high achieving individuals, you'll see that they have a ton of resilience, right? And so that life has not been this straight trajectory where they've never experienced anything bad. It's been a bunch of ups and downs. So I kind of use the analogy of like the stock market. I love these analogies that people can relate to, like, you know, concept kind of
break it down.
Yeah, for sure. And so the stock market, like, it goes up and down, you know, but it trends upward, right? And so you want to look at your trend line. And so when I'm working with clients, I talk to them about that stuff of, well, you know, what if it goes bad? And it's like, well, has it gone bad before? And what did you do? I figured it out. So why would this time be any different? You know, maybe this time is different. And so I acknowledge that there's a possibility, but is the probability increased, right? Tell me why. Convince me why. I'm always about evidence. You know, all I'm saying is convince me. If there is a higher probability that this time you won't be able to figure it out, tell me why that is. And they are at a loss. They aren't able to say it. Then why wouldn't you do the same thing you've always done?
And if you can prove me wrong, well, that means you can just stop.
Right. 100%. I own it. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, did I know that private practice was going to be, you know, a win in the way it was? Like, absolutely. I thought it would be. And I had a plan like, well, if it doesn't go the way I hope it will, then I can always do this. But also I know that part of my life has been figuring stuff out because I didn't have a model to follow. So why wouldn't I just work my way and continue to figure out and be successful?
And be okay with the shift that's going to come along with it. Because even with you going to private practice, it's a shift. And it's about, one, you being uncomfortable in certain areas, right? You have to, and I'm sure you have to learn a whole lot more things, especially when it just comes to the business aspect.
Yeah, with stuff we don't learn in school. You learn how to be a therapist, not so much how to run a business.
And that's a whole different type of hat you got to have on. And it's like, okay, am I ready for this? A lot of times, like I said, you got to understand that it's okay to fail, but you got to be confident in that shift. You got to be expecting of it. So a lot of the times with some of the individuals that I've worked with, I don't know why they do this, but they get so blindsided by the shift. They act as if, okay, when life knocking me upside the head, all of a sudden, you know, I'm surprised and I was supposed to be immune to the problems that life comes and life hits you and things like that. So when it does smack them in the head, it's like, oh, snap.
There's that unstated demand, like even in your language of what you're telling me your clients are saying is that, well, I was supposed to do this or I was supposed to get this and life dealt me something else or handed me something else. And it's like, well, what says you were supposed to have this thing? Like, is that a rule written somewhere, or who determined that because you go to college that you're supposed to get a 6-figure job, your first job out? Where's that determined? You know, where's it determined that because you're, you know, a therapist now and you've gotten licensed that people are just going to come to you? I mean, if that's the rule, for sure, then you should have equal access to that and be entitled to such. But if that's not the rule, then let's not act like it is.
Do you think the imposter syndrome will always be there? Or do you think that's something that, you know, you can definitely conquer?
I think you have the thoughts, but I don't think it has to be as debilitating as it can be. Right? So I think that what you're saying is, are we always going to have self-doubt? I think we have to learn to live with self-doubt. because there's going to be stuff that we haven't accomplished or haven't
Yeah.
even tried to experience before, right? So going into a new situation, it's appropriate to have a level of self-doubt or anxiety or concern about that. The thing that we don't want to happen is for that to remain even after you've shown some mastery or gotten ahead or done some accomplishment. And I think that's the part that we can get rid of, is that, yeah, you can be a little bit fearful or, a little bit nervous about this new endeavor. But what you can't do is, after a year of killing it, feel like tomorrow I'm probably going to screw this up.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to be okay with.
And I like the fact that you said it's not something that we're just going to get over, but it's something that we're just going to have to learn how to maneuver throughout our life. And I say this a lot when it comes to depression, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to this, or whatever the case is. We're never fully going to get over something.
Right.
We may get past this hurdle, but every closed door on the problem is opening up a whole nother monster to come smack you in the face. And it's about being able to learn how to function within it, being able to create those skills, have them skills, find people to provide you those tools, so when the problem does come, it doesn't smack you in the face. Now you're just like, oh, snaps.
I think what you're saying is so on point, because it talks about, or is really touching on the point of where people feel like life is supposed to always be good.
Yes.
Like once I've got a handle on it, life is gonna be great.
Once I got the job,
I got the job I want. I got the partner I was looking for, the car, the house, whatever. I've achieved the American dream. Now I've got all my needs met. Life is gonna be perfect, and that's not how it really works. Like I listened to a podcast called Happiness Lab, and happiness is not a place that you can reside in. It's a place you can kind of visit more frequently and stay a little bit longer, but you can't live there. Right? And it's appropriate. We can't always be happy. We can't always be sad. I mean, there are things that happen that appropriately I should be sad. I'll be sad over. Things I'll be happy over. Right? And so it's just more of, how do I temper those falls or those things that are negative emotions? How do I kind of manage those a little bit better and not get so kind of taken down to that unhealthy kind of negative emotion place?
But the unhealthy negative emotion is so we get more, and now I'm thinking about those individuals who feed off of the intention that comes with the negative emotions, right? Telling people that, like, I don't think I can do this, or telling people that I feel bad. We feed off of that. So it's a little bit more, sometimes being sad or being down is a little bit more exciting than being happy.
It's like a benefit. Like now I fit into that group. I mean, you'll start to, you're on social media. You start to see this, and you'll see on Instagram or Twitter, somebody posts, I'm, having a shitty day, or life sucks. And there's all these people that come in and, either provide tons of support, or also this community of, hey, I feel the same way, and I know exactly what you're going through. Right. And like that right there is kind of while it's good on one hand, right, to like know that you're not alone, and also for people to build you up, it's also kind of, like you said, it can become an addiction a little bit, right? I'm looking to get some of that when I don't feel it, so I'm putting it out there more. And it's like, well, are you really this, or are you putting that out there so that you can get that other thing that feels really good that comes with feeling bad? Yeah.
And then once you, it's important to be able to authenticate yourself and be I don't want to say one, but just understand that that's what you're looking for, right? Because with the imposter syndrome, with the addiction thing, so to say, and trying to get the feelings and get the attention from people, we gotta be 100 with ourselves and say, like, hey, this is what I'm getting, this is what it is. Because a lot of it is just we are internally lying to ourselves about it, right? We have to lie to ourselves before we lie to someone else, right? So we are believing that we're not supposed to do this, or we're not supposed to do this, when in reality, that's kind of just what it is. And a lot of the times we're trying to figure out which way to maneuver, when it just has to start with where you're at that moment.
Real talk. I try to, have my clients, I just talk about the idea of like fairness or equity, right? Like if you're going to talk about or focus on the negative, at least at a bare minimum, do the same amount of time.
Throw something in there.
That's positive. And, so like if you're going to spend 2 hours thinking about how terrible things can be, spend 2 hours thinking about how great things can be. Right? Just be fair to yourself. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Because what I'm saying right now is, what I'm hearing from you is that you're spending a ton more time over here, not as much time in this positive place, and then you're wondering why do you feel like life is shit, or things suck. And it's like, well, look at what you're doing. Look at where you're putting your time and energy into. we've got to change some of that stuff.
I say all the time, it's not about getting rid of negative thoughts. It's about counteracting negative
There you go.
thoughts.
Yep,
Right.
countering 100%.
Because they're going to be there. They're going to be there.
How is it
everything
not?
That you
Everybody
do.
has an inner bully. It doesn't go away. Bullies, I haven't known that bullies just bounce. They exist for a reason. Like they want to make you feel terrible. Yeah.
They're going to be there.
Right.
But you got to throw something else in the fire to let that bully dodge, slow down a bit.
100%.
Do whatever it is. You got to throw something in there. Just
Yep.
like you said, every negative thing that's thrown at you, throw every positive thing. And
Right.
I think a lot of people expect when you throw the positive thing in the fire that it's just supposed to light everything up.
There you go and erase everything, and that's not how it works.
No.
We're just saying we're going to make it equitable. We're
No.
going to make it fair.
It's not.
Let's just balance the scales.
You got a house full of fire. You can't just throw one drop of water on there and think
Right.
it's just going to be solved.
Right.
Nah, you got to drench it and drown it
100%.
in the water, in the positivity. And that shit is hard, though. This is hard. It's draining for a lot of individuals because a lot of people are going to start to feel like, okay, now I'm just forcing it, and I feel like I'm forcing it. It's not really cool, so now I'm just finna give up. I think it's a constant thing.
It's kind of like your self-care and like how you was talking about in the beginning about discipline,
Yeah.
right? It's not doing the big chunk. It's about being consistent, learning a habit, being habitual about recognizing the positive, recognizing the good
Yeah.
that you do on a daily basis. I assign self-esteem journals. Write down little things that you did today that were good, because I know you're gonna remember all the bad stuff
Oh,
you
nigga,
did.
you ain't need to write that down.
Right. That's you gonna remember all of that. That's cemented in that brain. But let's have you write down some of the good stuff, because you can't tell me that it was all bad, that today was all terrible.
Yeah, but we always go back into, especially me myself, we always go back into like, it was okay. It was all good.
Yep.
And I think it's because we obviously because we don't think we're good enough, but also we don't think we're worthy of that thing that is good.
Right.
And then when that good thing does come, we're like,
Yeah.
you just here. You just here.
Yeah.
The good thing is it's just here to pass the time.
It's fleeting. Yeah, we dismiss it. It came, but what does that really mean? And it's like, well, wait, no, it means a whole lot, because that doesn't happen every day. You don't get a promotion every day.
Exactly.
You don't get a new job every day.
Exactly.
You didn't get a bonus
Exactly.
every day, unless you do. Then okay, I guess it was. Let me know.
Whatever it is,
Right.
a lot of it is also about, along with throwing all of the positive stuff in there with the negative stuff that you have, but it's also about being present within those positive things.
Right.
We pay attention and we stick to the negative things, but we just throw the positive stuff in it and we just forget about it. Oh,
yeah.
I'm doing good, and then we just stick
Right.
to where we at instead of be like, I'm doing good. Okay, why are you doing good? What
Right.
does good mean to you? What was good about the day that happened?
It's like, as you were speaking, it made me think of an analogy, and I just thought of this on the random, but it's like nobody has a trophy case of disappointments. You know what I mean? Like, you get a first place, I'm just going to throw that ribbon down, and I'm going to throw that first place trophy in a box. And what I'm going to put out is that time I came in fourth, or the time when I didn't. Like, nobody does that. When we put up stuff, it's like, hey, it's the best. And it's like, why aren't we recognizing that stuff? Why don't we recognize when we do well? But I think on a daily basis, we will gravitate to paying attention to the little things that, is that a failure? How bad is it really?
I think that opened this door for the conversation of where does optimism and pessimism come from? Is that something that could be taught? Is that something that you were born with? Is that more of a nature thing? It's kind of, a nurture thing, and what you were taught, I guess, growing up throughout. I think that's something that has to be trained,
right,
in order to be optimistic towards a lot of the situations. I think we train ourselves to be pessimistic in so many ways to where we just look and we purposely stick to the negative part of things. But when it comes to the optimism and being grateful and being mindful and being present within that optimistic thing that you're looking towards, that's something that has to constantly be trained throughout your life.
Like, so part of it is the work is to get people to be aware of that negative lens that they're viewing the world through. Right. So it's like, let's take that set of negative glasses off. Let's put on, a pair of glasses that is a little bit more realistic. Right. That, like, you didn't only do bad stuff. I don't live in absolutes. You didn't have a perfect day. You didn't have a completely horrible, terrible day. Some bad stuff happened and some good stuff happened, right? And like, where is that? Today, maybe something really bad happened and also some really great stuff happened. Like, an example might be that, somebody died this year, but I also had like 10 great things that happened. because this person died, and I have this relationship with them, we're super close, does that mean that life is now horrible and terrible? And I'm saying that oftentimes people might live there and say, yeah, sure, this thing happened, so none of this other stuff matters. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know that none of that other stuff matters. That because you got a flat tire today, your day is ruined. I don't know. I mean, it's unpleasant. It's not ideal. We didn't want that to happen. So let's temper how we talk about that stuff. Let's not catastrophize.
It goes into who are you living your day for?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing things for?
Right.
Are you doing them for yourself? Because if you're doing them for yourself, and if you're doing them for the betterment of yourself, any negative or positive thing that comes in your way, you're just gonna take it on the chin. But if I'm doing this, if I'm trying to be a great therapist for you, for your praise, and if you don't praise me, it's just like it's not going to work.
Right. Then you shouldn't be a therapist, because I don't know. Clients aren't often telling you every day that you did a great job.
Not at all.
Yeah,
if I'm living my life through my mother passed. It's just like, what's the purpose?
Right. 100%.
Who are you living your life through? What are you doing these accomplishments for?
Yeah, like what's your why, huh?
Because a lot of the times, especially if, you're in that family where everybody's pushing you up, you start to, succeed because you just don't want to hear their mouth.
So now I've identified with, I have to be up here on top all the time. And it's like, that's not realistic. Nobody can be great forever. I mean, if that were the case, then Michael Jordan would still be playing. He had to retire.
Kobe would still be killing stuff.
There you go. Exactly. I mean, he had his period, sure, and now we'll go do something else. But that doesn't take away with the fact that now he's retired, that he still didn't, cement his legacy or anything like that. And so I think people get caught on like, well, I always have to be. And again, there's that demand always, that absolute. And I don't know that you always have to be great, have to be perfect, have to be on.
Nah, especially when it comes to that particular field.
Right.
Because Michael Jordan, he was great in basketball.
For sure.
He get older, he comes second, third, he's not the best no more. But he starts to be great in other areas.
For sure.
Right? I don't know if he's good at golfing, but he's good at golfing.
Yep.
Business.
Yep.
Whatever the case is.
100%.
He's able to maintain his finances. So he has to be good in business in some form of way.
Exactly.
Right? So, okay, you may not be good in this area anymore, but figure out what else you could possibly do. Right? I love to tell my clients is that because I think one coping skill is going to be able to fix everything. And it's like, no, we got a toolbox.
100%.
Every Phillips is not going to fit every bolt.
Right.
Every socket is not going to fit in every nut.
Yep.
Just like every coping skill is not going to fit for every single thing.
Right.
Right.
If it were that easy, we'd have one rich,
We'd be out of a job if 100%. It was that easy.
Yeah. It would charge a lot more, too. For real. Like, I got the key. I got the answer
Exactly.
for you.
So don't get so caught up in the one thing that didn't work for that one specific area. That does not mean that coping skill doesn't work. It just means the box or the problem that you're trying to have it work for is just not meant for that.
Right.
So you got to find or possibly shift that over here, because maybe that's not the problem you need to attack at the moment. Maybe this is just a subset,
right?
Or a byproduct of what actually is going on,
right? Or now that we have to use two tools, what I mean? I use the Phillips to do this one thing, and then I got to use the socket to do this other part. That's all good. We took both to get rid of this one. That's the way it was put together.
At the end of the day,
what works?
Exactly.
What works?
You've assembled it.
Yep.
It's working.
Yep.
The chair that you built is sturdy.
Yep.
No matter how you got there, it's a simple fact that you got there.
100%.
A lot of us, we
and own that you got there.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like when you're saying you got there, it's like own that you got there. It wasn't that your problem wasn't as big as the next person's, or that it was this other thing. No, you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of time for a lot of people, especially I do this a lot, is I don't give myself credit for things that I'm doing because this is what I'm supposed to do.
There you go. There's that demand. I'm supposed to be doing. Again, where's the rule that says you're supposed to be as successful as you are? Mm-hmm. I don't know, because there's opportunity for you to not be. You could have made a lot of different choices. There's no law that says you had to go to college, that you had to go to graduate school, that you had to, want to get licensed as a therapist. You could have finished graduate school and not done that.
And there's also, on the other end, there's no thing that's saying just because you're a black person, you have to be bad. There's no thing that's saying because 100%. You're a male, you have to be super angry, or because you're a woman, you have to be super soft.
Yep.
There's nothing saying that you're supposed to be good, but there's also nothing saying that you're supposed to be bad.
Right.
But there's
we place these demands and we create this narrative in our head, and we try to, model our life or put our life into that box. And it's like, let's change some of those rules. What works for you?
You start to see that a lot of shit is just really self-imposed.
Yep. 100%. That I've told myself this, so now I've got to live to that. I've created this narrative and I've got to stick to it. It's like, well, no, let's change the narrative. Yeah.
Just like you created for yourself, you could throw
Yeah.
that away.
Yeah, how
and
about
just
we
create
rewrite
something
that?
new.
Exactly.
We have the power and the control to do a lot of the things in our life, but we just don't.
I mean, we're growing. We need to accept growth. I mean, the stuff that I was interested when I was 5 and 7 and 10, I'm no longer interested in. And that's okay. Some stuff maybe I still am, but I'm not. You know, I used to play tons of video games growing up. You know, I used to be on the sticks. I'm not on the sticks like that. I'm spending my time doing other stuff.
Not playing
It's
Madden
all,
no more.
right, 100%. I'm not on live. You know, it's all good though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not knocking people that do that. It's like, yeah, that's for you. But,
Yeah.
you know, I've grown. But I don't know that that makes me a better person that I don't do it or a worse person that I don't do that anymore.
It just means that you're at a different place.
100%.
Except that it's okay for you to be at a different place.
Yep.
Period. You know, guys in college, you mess with everybody.
Yep.
And that's the place you in that whole phase.
Yep.
You know, this is what it is.
100%.
You get out of it though. Now you realize, okay, I'm not in this whole phase anymore. I'm here doing this.
There you go.
I'm one girl, have a wife, raising a family, all these other things.
Yep.
You're growing. Give yourself credit for the simple fact that you're going to change and accept the change. Because if you want to be in that whole phase in your 40s
Yeah.
or your 50s, you're going to have other people looking at you like, yo, you tripping.
Yeah. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, you also have that right too. Like, you know, do you, be happy with being who you are. You
Just
know,
have confidence in whatever it is.
Right,
Have
right.
confidence in your bush. If your shit stink, I wouldn't
Own
recommend
it.
you breathe it. But
right. But also know that somebody else's shit stink in a different way.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
shit
nobody's
may smell
perfect. Nobody is perfect. I haven't met a perfect person yet.
And you're going to find someone that actually likes the smell of your shit.
Yeah, there it is. That's the goal, right?
Find somebody to do that, man.
100%.
So moving on forward into the question that kind of come up, and you know, I feel like I kind of answered this question in the beginning, but my question for you is this: have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome yourself, and what were some of the things that you've done personally to get out of it?
100%. I mean, I think my career and trajectory has been one in which I've kind of forged myself in a field that there isn't a lot of black male representation.
Oh yeah.
So I think I've done a lot of firsts. And so there is that fear. There's that inner bully telling me, Stevan, you don't know what you're doing because you've not done this. And also look around the room. There's no one in here that looks like you.
Yeah.
I use the same stuff that I'm telling my clients, right? I'm saying, well, you're right. Inner bully, I hear you saying that. There's no one in here that looks like me. Also, does that mean that I don't belong here? And then I also list out the stuff I've done. You know, life hasn't been perfect. But I've learned from stuff and that I continue to kind of push forward, and I've been successful to date. So
Yeah.
why, if I just keep doing what I've been doing, why wouldn't I continue to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm able to kind of talk myself out of that stuff and say, hey, try it. And I don't live there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't live in that self-doubt. It's like, okay, I'm in here. I'm going to figure it out because that's what I've always done. I don't know yet how I'm going to figure it out and how I'm going to be successful, but I usually find a way to figure it out and be successful. So
And
it'll
I
be
think,
okay.
yeah, and I think the most important when it comes to this and everything that's going on within our conversation is that everybody deals with it.
Mm-hmm.
With imposter syndrome, one of the things that I know we personally do, and I know for a fact you've done this,
Mm-hmm.
or you've came across a bunch of people who've done this before within, you know, your practice, is that one, you begin to believe like you're the only person doing this,
Right.
and then you begin to believe that everybody is looking at you like looking at you in a way that they know that you're doing it in a negative way.
Right.
So I could say for me, it's when I first started doing this, and sometimes when I'm doing group therapy, and sometimes when I'm here on this mic and things like that, I think in my head that people are listening to me like, yo, that man don't know what he's speaking about. That man don't know what he's doing. Or we're in
Right,
group therapy.
right.
Like, what is he talking about?
Right,
That coach
right.
was
What
whack.
the
He
hell
just
is
told
this
me to
about?
jump out of a plane. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
You know, but for me, it's, you know, it's like what I said earlier. I just have to go do it.
Right.
So when it comes back into answering the question that I gave to you, my man, for me, it's about just actually going to go do it.
Yep.
And just be okay with whatever is there.
Yeah.
Because you're going to begin to realize that the consequence that you thought was so bad isn't really as bad.
Right.
And we have to understand that the thing that the worst thing it could possibly get is death.
Or the thing that, like, the other thing that it's important to kind of realize or recognize is that there's no one way to do something and be successful.
No.
Right? That, like,
Yeah.
you know, we have different ways to get to this studio we're at. You know, take the streets, you can take the freeway, you can do a combination. You know, there's tons of ways to get here. same thing in life with success, right? Like there's no one route to get to that. I mean, there's some tenets about things maybe you want to do to be successful, habits you should have or could have, but there's no one way to do it. So even like when, in school learning how to do therapy and stuff like that, that was the way that they were teaching me how to do therapy, and you got to sit like this, and that doesn't work for Stevan Lewis. And so when I'm in the therapy room, I'm not sitting and operating. I don't speak that way. I'm me, it's going to come across, and that's just the way I do therapy.
I say that a lot here. It's like I did not want to be a therapist. When it came to graduate school, and when I finished graduate school, I was like anti-therapy.
How come?
Because I went to an all-white school.
Oh, gotcha.
So they taught me like it's by the book.
Yeah.
Freudian's finna be top-notch guy, and finna do psychodynamics, all up in it. And I'm thinking like, yo,
that doesn't resonate with you, huh?
This is not gonna work for the homies in the hood. Like this is not like I can't take this back to the block and like this is my graduate.
Or it's not my personality. Like I'm not that way
on no level.
Yeah,
I feel uncomfortable trying to do it. And then in graduate school, it was like I felt uncomfortable doing this.
But you got to do it that way to get you pass a class, or when you get out in the community mental health, you got to adhere to the model in that way. And if you aren't doing it that way, then you get deemed.
But it goes back into like what you said. There's a bunch of different ways in order to get to the point.
100%.
Right?
That's why there's not one model of therapy. I mean, there's different therapy. I do REBT, there's CBT, there's psychodynamic, there's solution focus, there's all sorts of stuff.
And even if you feel like some of those things don't work for you, go ahead and create your own.
Right.
Find something that works for you, because you can merge certain things together in order to fit.
Right. Those didn't exist at one point either. At one point, everybody was Freudian, doing psychoanalysis, right? That was it.
I think DBT is one of the newest.
Yep. And people just break off. EMDR now exists. That didn't exist before.
It's a bunch of different ways in order to get where you need to go.
Right. And to be able to help people. 100%.
Just have confidence in the way that you're going. Because even though you may feel like it's the long route, it may not be the correct route. Understand that route is just what meant for you. Right, I tell people a lot of the times in life we have roles, right? You have people in your lives who are supposed to be great, who's going to treat you like, very kind, and their role is to give you all sorts of respect, but you're also going to have people who their role in your life is to treat you like shit. You have people where their role in your life is to be bad. Their role in your life is to give you a bunch of negative things. You also have a role in other people's lives, right? What is your role in certain people's lives? And whatever your role is, figure it out. Whatever their role is figure it out and move accordingly. And a lot of the times we try to get out of our roles, or we try to bring other people out of their roles. Like I got homeboys that I just go kick it on the block with, but I can't bring my homeboys from college or from grad schools and have that conversation on the block, or I can't bring my homegirl that I go to the club with to the library and read, because now we're going to start bringing other people in other areas in which they're not comfortable in, and that's where am I good enough, or am I supposed to be here, is actually going to start. Have confidence in what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it. And if you don't believe this is absolutely not working, understand that it's okay to just put your hands up and be like, you know what, I'm good. You gotta find somewhere to start, but you also gotta have confidence if you be like, nah, this ain't for me. So on that note, I appreciate you, my man.
Thanks for having me, sir. Appreciate it,
brother.
Yes, sir.
How can people find you, connect with you, things like that, if you would want them?
Oh man, I've upgraded. I got a website. It's all my stuff is real simple, man. Stevan Lewis is STEVON. So www.stevanlewis.com is the website. Social media, it's Stevan Lewis and the letters MFT, like Mary Frances Thomas. And that's pretty much how you find me on any social media: Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that stuff, at Stevan Lewis MFT.
We got 2 of the 8 black male social workers in California, well, in Los Angeles, I'm going to say.
Right. No, for real, that's probably the truth.
That are into therapy. It's a lot of black male social workers, but when it comes to therapy, it's only a few, man. So I appreciate the work that you do here within this field, man, because it could get tough. Because a lot of the times I've felt this a lot. People just put you on the pedestal just because you're that black male therapist, and now you have to live up to what people are automatically putting on you. And then a lot of times you just have to realize, like, nah, this is me. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, how much you're doing, and how long you've been doing it.
Appreciate it, man.
You've been doing it way longer than me. So
Yeah.
A lot of the trials and errors that a lot of us as therapists have had to go through, or had to hit ourselves on the head. You probably already hit yourself.
And that's what I try to give back, man. So whenever I come across another black male therapist that's coming up in the game, I try to share with them the information that I didn't have and wish I would have known when I was getting started out.
And I appreciate it,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
As always, those individuals who are listening right now, good looking. Those people who are going to be listening to this tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next life, whenever you hear this, good looking. The people that clicked on this link and is going to listen to it for 2 seconds and you're like, yo, I don't like the sound of his voice, so I'm going to turn it off. Good looking to you too, man. I appreciate it all. And as always, understand, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.